All right, shall we start? Yao Chan, everything okay?
Hello, Dr. Leah. Yes,
Yes.
we can start now.
We can start. Okay, you can hear me?
Yep, I can.
Fantastic. Okay. All right, let's get started. Okay, and welcome everyone to this part 2 of this quadratic expressions and equations series of webinars. All right, this is part 2. Last week we had part 1. All right, and let's start with a short recap, something like a revision. All right, so here, this question is about recognizing the quadratic form. So is this a quadratic equation? It's a very simple question. So is this a quadratic equation? And your answer should be, yes, it is. And you should also know why your answer is a yes, right? Your answer is a yes because it has x to the power of 2, x squared term, all right? It has an x squared term and nothing higher than that. It doesn't have an x to the power of 3. It doesn't have an x to the power of 4. It has x squared term as the highest power of square, all right? So that makes it a quadratic equation. So let's look at this. Second question, is this a quadratic equation? Your answer should be no, it's not. All right, and it's not because it does not have an x squared term. The x squared term is missing, right? And so it's not a quadratic equation. It's a linear equation, not a quadratic equation. Let's go on to a third question. All right, is this a quadratic equation? And the answer again is a no. It's a no because you have an x cubed term, which is not supposed to be there. There's supposed to be an x squared term, x cubed term, not allowed for quadratic equation. So this is not a quadratic equation. It's a cubic equation. All right, if you must know the name, it is a cubic equation. Now, so no terms higher than the x squared term allowed, all right, for quadratic equations. Now, final one, is this a quadratic equation? And the answer should be yes, it is, because it has an x squared term there. Oh, there's another one. Is this a quadratic equation? And of course it is, right? Again, because there's an x squared term. All right, so this is a bit of revision. And a bit more revision. Last week, we talked about rearranging to the standard form. Remember, we talked about making equations really neat, all right, making it a standard form. So let's say you start off with this. Let's make this a standard form. Your next step should be this, all right? So you see the 2x squared, we retain the 2x squared here, all right? We retain the term, and then we bring the 3 over, and when we bring the 3 over, it becomes a minus 3. When we bring the minus 5x over, it becomes a plus 5x here. All right, so this 3 becomes a minus 3, this minus 5x becomes a plus 5x. And this is your standard form. It's neat, it's orderly, it's nice, it's equal to 0, it's the standard form, right? This is not the standard form, this is the standard form. Let's go to another question, rearrange to standard form again. Again, it's very simple. Bring the 16x over and you have the standard form here. Very, very simple. All right. Again, it's neat, it's nice, it's orderly, and it's equal to 0. Right. So the third one is a little bit difficult because this is x. This is not x squared. This is x minus 3 squared. So how do we get this to the standard form? How do we manipulate this equation so that it becomes a standard form? We have a few more steps here. We expand this, so for x minus 3 squared, we expand it to x squared minus 6x plus 9. So we've expanded this to this form. All right. After expanding it, we bring the 3. We deduct 3 from. We minus 3 from both sides. So when you have minus 9 here, you minus 3 becomes 6, and the 3 here becomes 0. How did we get to this last stage here? How did we get to the standard form? We got to the standard form by minusing 3 from both sides. We've got to be fair. All right, so we minus 3 on the left side and we minus 3 over at the right side, and this is the standard form. Again, it's orderly, and again it's equal to 0. All right, this is the standard form. Now last one, I think. All right, rearrange to standard form. Again, this looks a bit scary. It looks a bit scary because it is. All right, it is. And what we do is we have 13 minus 3, and this is x plus 7 squared. Again, every time you see this, all right, you can only transform this to standard form if you expand this. And that's what I've done here. I've expanded x plus 7 squared to x squared plus 14x plus 49. This comes from an expansion of x plus 7 squared. And after this, you know what? The next step you should work on is to bring this minus 3 into this parenthesis, okay, and you multiply by minus 3 throughout, you get a minus, you get 3x squared plus 42x. 3 times 14 is a 42, 3 times 49 is 147. And last of all, bring the minus in. So when you bring the minus in, you have minus 3x squared, minus 42x, and minus 147. Last of all, tidy this up. All right, and you can tidy this up by just combining 13 and minus 147, and 13 minus 147 is minus 134. And there you have it. This is already your standard form, right? So don't worry about, scary looking equations like that. You can always do it step by step, like I have done. All right, do it step by step, and you will see that you will arrive at the standard form in no time at all. Don't skip any steps, because I don't do that either. All right, if you skip steps, then you run the risk of introducing some errors that you might not have realized. Okay, now let's go on. Oh, one more. All right, this is simple. Rearrange to standard form again. All right, and this one is very simple. What makes it really troublesome is this 1 over 5. All right, ask yourself, when you're transforming to standard form, ask yourself, what's the problem here? And the problem here is the 1 over 5. And what you do is just multiply left and right sides by 5. And once you multiply the left side and the right side by 5, you get rid of this 1 over 5. That's the idea. All right. If you don't like it, get rid of it. All right. So I don't like this 1 over 5. It's creating a lot of problems. So I'm going to get rid of it by multiplying both sides. Remember, you've got to be fair. Multiply both sides by 5. And so when we multiply the left side by 5, we've essentially got rid of the 1 over 5, and we are left with 3x squared minus 10. And we multiply the right side by 5, we get 5 times 12x. That's what we get. All right, and 5 times 12x is really 60x. So that's the next easy step. And remember that for standard form, you have to have a 0 on the right. So here, bring the 60x over, and you've got your standard form. 3x squared minus 60x minus 10 equals to 0. Okay, wow, another one. Okay, how do you get this to standard form? Multiply this out, x squared plus 2x, all right? How do I get x squared plus 2x? Just multiply this out, equals to 5x squared minus 1. And what you do is bring everything to the left side. And so you have x squared minus 5x squared, that gives you minus 4x squared, plus 2x, and here plus 1, when you bring it over, you get a minus 1. So you have your standard form here. It's neat, it's orderly, x squared term followed by x term followed by your constant equals to 0. It's nice, all right? So this is your standard form, all right? A is minus 4, B is 2, and C is minus 1. All right, now, so what have we done so far? We have revised two things. We have revised, recognizing a quadratic equation. We have also recognized, revised how to rearrange equations to the standard form. Now, the last revision we're going to cover new things after this. And the last thing I'm going to revise with you is how to solve graphically. Remember, there are 4 ways of solving quadratic equations. And we covered the first one last week. And the first one is very simple, solve it graphically. So here, let's say we want to solve this x squared plus 3x plus 1. Let's say we want to solve equals to 0. We want to solve this graphically. What you do is just plot it out, and your solutions are right here and here. All right, so this is like minus 2.6 something. All right, my eyes aren't that sharp, but minus 2.6 something. And this is minus 0.3 something, nearly minus 0.4, very, very nearly minus 0.4. All right, so these are the two solutions for x squared plus 3x plus 1. And I'm obtaining the solutions graphically, like what we did last week. All right, this is another one. All right, and this is solve x squared plus 4x plus 2 equals to 0 graphically. So plot it out. And our two solutions are just here, and the other one is here. Okay, so this is something like minus 3.4, somewhere there. All right, and this is minus 0.6. So these are our two solutions for this question. Solve x squared minus 7x plus 3, plot it out, and our two solutions are right here. and here, right? And this is 0.4 something, not quite 0.5 yet, and this is 6.5 somewhere there, right? And with this, we come to realize the disadvantage of solving graphically. Everything is approximate, all right? And this boy here, this little boy, this cute boy here is squinting his eyes. He's squinting his eyes because he's trying to make out exactly where the graph cuts the x-axis. It's not easy to make this out. All right, you can enlarge the thing, of course, but there is still an element of approximation here. So solving graphically works all the time. It works all the time, but the problem is that you have to really squint your eyes. The graph drawing has to be good and accurate, and you are never going to get the exact answer. So we're going to go, today we're going to talk about a different way of solving. There are 4 ways of solving quadratic equations, and today we're going to go to the second method, that is solving by factoring. All right, and I've given you this bullseye here because solving by factoring gives you the exact answer, exact, precise answer. Okay, so and that's why I've given you this archery here with the arrow hitting right at the bullseye. Right. So here last week we talked about solving using graphing, and I've shown you the problem. The problem is that is illustrated by this boy. Like he's really trying to make out where the curve crosses the x-axis. All right, so that's the problem with graphing. Now today we're going to talk about factorization or factorizing, and next week we're going to talk about completing the square. So let's head on to factorization or solving by factoring. Now I have 27 questions ahead of me. All right, because solving by factoring is it's a practice thing. If you practice it, you'll see that you will be able to solve by factoring very easily. If you don't practice, then you're going to struggle. All right, so I have 27 examples ahead of me, and all of them are on solving by factoring. And I've tried to arrange the examples from easy to quite tough. All right, so just follow me and bear with me for 27 examples. All right, so here let's now for factoring, solving by factoring, there's something that we use that you ought to know. And the something that we use is this thing called the zero product rule or the zero product property. All right, depending on the book that you're using, depending on the person teaching, sometimes the book will say it's a zero product property. Sometimes it says it's a zero product rule. All right, but they both, property or rule, they both refer to the same thing. All right, now the zero product property or rule states that if an equation is equal to 0, then at least one of the factors must be equal to 0. That's what it does. That's what it says. All right, and it's very, very simple. Now, I'll put it even more simply. If x times y equals to 0, then x equals to 0, or y must equal to 0, or both of them must equal to 0. It's as simple as that. All right, so if x times y equals to 0, this denotes x times y equals to 0. Then x must be equal to 0, or y must be equal to 0, or both of them must be equal to 0. Now, this is called the zero product property, otherwise known as the zero product rule. Okay, so we're going to use this quite a lot. So let's get started. Okay, now let's all the questions are the same. Okay, it says solve this by factoring. So solve x squared plus 3x plus 2 equals to 0. Solve this by factoring. And what you have to do is just draw this x, all right, as large as you can. All right, draw this x very clearly and look at this term x squared. All right, look at this term x squared and think, how do you get x squared? You get x squared by multiplying x by x. X times x equals to x squared. That's how you get x squared, x times x, and you put it down here. All right, what this says is x times x equals to x squared. All right, so let's go again. The first thing that you do when you see a solve this quadratic equation is focus on the x squared term and ask yourself, how do I get this term? How do I get x squared? So it's x times x. And then after that, you shift your focus over to this, this constant here, which is 2. And ask yourself, how do you get 2? You get 2 by 1 times 2. That's how you get 2. You multiply 1 by 2. All right, so That's how you get 2. 2 times 1 or 1 times 2. Either way, it's fine. All right. Now, after you do that, all right, what you do is this. You multiply x by 1, and that's what you get. X times 1 is x, and you multiply this way. So you multiply this way, diagonally, x times 1, which you get x, and you multiply this way, x times 2 equals to 2x. All right, and you add this 2 up. So if you add this 2 up, and if it equals to 3x, then your factor is simply x plus 2 and x plus 1. Very simple. You have hit the factors. Let me repeat because it's tricky. Let me repeat this. All right. So when you look at this, when you are faced with this question, solve x squared plus 3x plus 2 equals to 0 by factoring. What you do is concentrate on x squared. All right, and ask yourself, how do you get x squared? And your answer is x times x. That's simple. Next, how do you get 2? That's 2 times 1 or 1 times 2. Either way, it's okay. All right, no problems. 2 times 1. Now, after that, what you have to do is multiply diagonally. X times 1 is x, and x times 2 is 2x. All right, now add this 2 up. The final step is very simple. Add this 2 up, 2x plus x, and you get 3x, and compare it with this. And if they are the same, if the addition of this equals to 3x, then you have hit the factors. The factors are x plus 2 and x plus 1. Now, for our case, x plus 2x indeed is 3x. It is 3x. So we have our factors. What are our factors? Our factors are x plus 2 and x plus 1. So that's what we have here. All right, our factors are x plus 2 and also x plus 1. All right, so these are our factors. So here the question, remember, we have always to keep this in mind. The question is x squared plus 3x plus 2 equals to 0. Now that we have our factors, we can replace this with our factors. All right, what we have done is very simple. We have just taken this whole thing and replaced it with what we have found here. We have found a factor, so we've replaced the thing. And now, keep in mind the zero product property or zero product rule. If this times this, if this factor times this factor equals to 0, then one of them must be equal to 0 or both of them must be equal to 0. So what you do finally is x plus 1 equals to 0, x plus 1 equals to 0, and you have, if x plus 1 equals to 0, your x equals to minus 1. And if your x plus 2 equals to 0, x equals to minus 2 then, and you have solved it. Very simple. All right, and look at that, you have precise values. Minus 1 and minus 2 are precise values. You don't have to squint your eye, you don't have to have a fantastically drawn curve, you don't have to have fantastic eyesight. You have got the answer already by factorization, by factoring the quadratic equation. Now let's go on to a second equation. So here you have x squared plus 8x plus 12. All right, and the question is same, solve this thing. All right, factorization equations, quadratic questions are very simple. It's very, I would say, very few words. It's just solve this. All right, so again, look at this, x squared. And how do you get x squared? It's just x times x. Very simple. All right, and let's look at 12 here. How do you get 12? You get 12 by, it's 3 times 4. 3 times 4 is 12. All right, 3 times 4 is 12. And what you do is now is multiply this diagonally. X times 4 is 4x. And x times 3 is 3x. All right, and add this 2 up and you get a 7x. And 7x is not 8x. Hey, it's not 8x. 7x and 8x are different things. All right, I have not managed to match these two. So I have not arrived at our factors yet. All right, I have not arrived at the factors of this quadratic expression yet. So let's redo this. Let's try a different combination. We have tried 3 and 4. Let's try a different combination. So let's redo it this. X squared is x times x. Now 12 is 2 times 6. We tried 3 times 4 just now. It didn't work. So we are trying 2 times 6. So again, x times 6 is 6x and x times 2 is 2x. All right. And if you add 6x plus 2x, you get 8x. Hey, you hit jackpot. So your factors are simply x plus 2, x plus 6. These are your factors, x plus 2, x plus 6. So that's where you have it. X squared plus 8x plus 12 equals to x plus 2 and x plus 6. All right, times x plus 6. So once you have this, remember your question. Your question is this. X squared plus 8x plus 12 is this, all right? So you are taking this and replacing this with what? With the factors you found. So remove this and replace it with what? The equivalent. The equivalent is to this is x plus 2 and x plus 6. So replace that. And once you have replaced that, think of the rule again, zero product rule or zero product property. X plus 2 must be equal to 0. Therefore, x equals to minus 2. X plus 6 is equal to 0. So x equals to minus 6. So at every stage, know what you are applying. All right, sometimes the teachers in the excitement of solving things, they don't tell you, why these steps are there. And these steps are there. What are you applying here? You're applying the zero product property or zero product rule. Okay, so that's it. Okay, now let's go on a third question. So x squared plus 7x plus 10. Simple. X squared is x times x, and 10 is 2 times 5. All right. So x times x equals to x squared, 2 times 5 equals to 10. All right, let's multiply this diagonally. X times 5 is 5x, and x times 2 is 2x. All right, and if you add 5x plus 2x, you do get 7x. That means you've hit on the factors. You've arrived at your factors. What are your factors? Your factors are x plus 2 and x minus 5. So that's what you get, x plus 2 and x plus 5. These are your factors. Okay, always go back to your question. This is not your question. Your question is solve this. You haven't solved it yet. You have only factorized the thing. You haven't solved this. So get back to your question. Your question is x squared plus 7x plus 10 equals to 0. Replace this. All right, you found that x squared plus 7x plus 10 equals to x plus 2 times x plus 5. So take this stuff and replace it with whatever you find on the right. And that's what I've done. And at this step, remember the zero product property and apply it. X plus 2 must be equal to 0. All right, which x equals to minus 2. X plus 5 equals, or x plus 5 equals to 0. X equals to minus 5. And these are your solutions. Remember, the question is solve this. So what are your solutions? Your solutions are x equals to minus 2, x equals to minus 5. Another one, simple, right? So let's have this. You have x squared, x times x. 9 is 3 times 3. So let's multiply this diagonally, you get a 3x. And let's multiply this diagonally, you get a 3x also. And when you add this up, you get 6x. Hey, doesn't match. You have a 10x there, and you have a 6x here. It just doesn't match. That means you have not arrived at your factor yet. You're going to try another time. So let's try it with a different combination. 3 and 3. Yes, it equals 3 times 3 is 9, but it's not worked out. All right, so let's try a different combination. So let's try it again. So it's x times x, and for 9, we have 9 times 1, or 1 times 9. All right, so here x times 9 is a 9x. All right, x times 1 is just x. All right, and when you add 9x plus x, you do get 10x. You do get 10x. And what that means is that you have hit your factors. Don't do anything more already. Your factors are staring at you in your face. So what are your factors? Your factors are x plus 1 and x plus 9. So let's write them out. X squared plus 10x plus 9 equals to x plus 1 and x plus 9. These are your two factors. What are they? These are your two factors. Where did you get them from? You got them from here. X plus 1 is from here and x plus 9 is from there. All right. Remember, it's not time to celebrate yet because you've not solved your question. The question says solve this. You factored the thing yet, but you have not solved it. So we have got to go a little bit more before we can say that we've solved it. So here, get back to the question. Always get back to the question. X squared plus 10x plus 9 equals 0. You found that x squared plus 10x plus 9 equals to this 2. So replace the thing here. Right? They are both equivalent, right? So this can be replaced because they are the same. All right. And now think of the zero product property. And x plus 1 equals to 0, which means x equals to 1. X plus 10 equals to 0, which means x equals to minus 10. And these two are your solutions. X equals to minus 1, x equals to minus 10 are your solutions. So remember, you're asked to solve this. You must have solutions because you've been asked to solve something. So at the end, you cannot have factors. You must have solutions. And your solutions are x equals to minus 1 and x equals to minus 10. Let's go on. We are going really quickly. All right, x squared plus 12x plus 20. Okay, and let's try this. X squared equals to x times x. 20 equals to 4 times 5, let's say. 4 times 5. All right, 4 times 5 equals to 20, right? Okay, so here, x times 5, we have to multiply diagonally. So x times 5 is 5x, and x times 4 is 4x. All right, and if we add these two up, we get 9x, which is not 12x. Which means we have to we haven't arrived at the factors yet, which means we have to try a different combination, something other than 4 times 5, another combination. All right, so let's go read through the question with another combination, and this time x squared is x times x. For 20 we get 2 times 10, and when we multiply diagonally, you see x times 10 is 10x, and x times 2 is 2x, and now 10x plus 2x equals to 12x, which means that you have hit your factors. And what are your factors? Your factors are staring at you here, x plus 2, the other factor is x plus 10. All right, so remember your factors are you obtain from this diagram. What are your factors? X plus 2 and x plus 10. So here, x squared plus 12x plus 20 equals to really x plus 2 times x plus 10. What are these? These are the factors of this quadratic expression. You must get your terms, your vocab correct. What are these two? What are x plus 2 and x plus 10? These two things are factors of this quadratic expression. But we have not been asked to factorize the question. We have been asked to solve this. So we haven't solved it yet. All right, we don't have any solution. So again, go back to the question, x squared plus 12x plus 20 equals to 0. Replace this with the factors. And why are you replacing it with the factors? You have to be able to ask, why do you have to be able to answer, why do you replace this with the factors? You replace it with the factors so that you can apply the zero product property. Right? Why do we change this to this form? Why do we have to go about this roundabout method? We are doing this so that we can apply the zero product property. So when we apply the zero product property, it says that x plus 2 must be 0, which means x equals to minus 2. X plus 10 equals to 0, 2, which means x equals to minus 10. So your solutions are x equals to minus 2 and x equals to minus 10. These are your two solutions. Okay. So I hope you're getting somewhere now. Now, this is a little bit more difficult. You know why it's a little bit more difficult? Because all the time, all the way we've been doing here is a plus and a plus. Plus, you know, if you look through all the questions that we have gone, it's all plus and another plus. Now, this is the first question that we are encountering, which is a plus and a minus. Not so easy. All right, not so easy. So let's get started. We have an x squared, which means it's an x times x, and you have a minus 15. All right, and minus 15, hey, one of my numbers has to be a minus, one has to be a plus. So let's try 5 times minus 3. 5 times minus 3 is minus 15. All right, and that's multiplied diagonally. X times minus 3 is minus 3x, and x times 5 is 5x. And when we add this to our minus 3x plus 5x, we get 2x. All right, we do get 2x, which means that we have hit our factors. Our factors are x plus 5. That's one factor. The second factor is x minus 3. Right? We have arrived at our factor. How do you know that these are your factors? You know that these are your factors because this, you know, the sum of these two things equal to your x term here. So 5x minus 3x equals to 2x. That tells you that you have arrived at your factors, and your factors are x plus 5, x minus 3. So just write them down. All right, write them down. Okay, and after this, note that, all right, you have not solved your equation, you have not solved your problem here, you have not arrived at the solution, you have arrived at two factors for this quadratic expression. So rewrite it. X squared plus 2x minus 15 equals to 0. Write it in the form of the two factors you have found. So x plus 5 times x minus 3 equals to 0. And apply the zero product rule, our favorite zero product rule. X plus 5 must be equal to 0. X minus 3 must be equal to 0. and then you get your solution. So x plus 5 equals to 0, your x equals to minus 5, x minus 3 equals to 0, and your solution here is x minus 3, and you have arrived at your solutions. Your solutions are x equals to minus 5 and x equals to 3. So these are your two solutions to this quadratic quadratic problem. Now let's do another one, x squared plus 5x minus 14. Again, it's a little tricky because there's a minus here. All right, the ones that we have done before this, prior to this, they were all plus, 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 plus all the way, very simple. But this is a little trickier because of the minus here, and here again you have a minus. So again, x squared, you have x's here, x times x equals to x squared. And you have minus 14. Minus 14 can be 7 times minus 2. All right, one of your numbers, to get minus 14, one of your numbers must be a minus. So let's let it be minus 2. So let's multiply diagonally. X times minus 2 is minus 2x. And x times 7 is 7x. Okay, and when you add these two up, 7x plus minus 2x, you get 5x. So that means that you have arrived at your factors, and your factors are x plus 7 and x minus 2. These are your factors, x plus 7, x minus 2. So write down your factors. Very, 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 very simple. Okay, so again, you have kind of factorized your quadratic expression, but you have not solved it. We want the solutions. We don't want the factors. We want the solutions. So get back to your question and replace your left side with your factors, all right, and apply, as usual, apply the zero product property. So x plus 7 equals to 0, x equals to minus 7, x minus 2 equals to 0, x equals to minus 2. Now at this point, you must realize that the two most important out of your quadratic expression here, the two most important factors are x squared. You get this here, x squared equals to x times x. Then the other one is minus 14, you get 7 times minus 2. Now the middle term here, the 5x, is only used for checking. All right, I like to stress this, okay, because we have covered maybe, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 questions already, maybe more than that. So you have to know that the role of this 5x, the middle term here, is for checking. Once you find that it matches 7x minus plus minus 2x here matches 5x, what does that tell you? It tells you that your factors are x plus 7 and x minus 2. If it does not match, then you have not arrived at your factors yet. That's what it tells you. Okay, so your 5x here is for checking. Checking what? Checking if you have got your factors or you haven't got your factors still. That's what it helps you to check. Okay, so let's go on. This is again tricky because there's a minus 20 here. So x squared is x times x, and minus 20 is 5 times minus 4. 5 times minus 4 is minus 20. One of the numbers that has to be a minus. So I'm choosing 4 to be the number with a minus. So x times minus 4 is minus 4x, and x times 5 is 5x. And what we do is now we have to check with this middle number here. So how do we check? We just total this up. 5x minus 4x, 5x plus minus 4x is indeed x. So it tells us that we have a match. We've hit jackpot, and our factors are x plus 5 and x minus 4. One factor is x plus 5, the other factor is x minus 4. So that's what we write it out as. All right, x squared plus x minus 20 equals to x plus 5 times x minus 4. All right, again, we look back at our question. Our question doesn't say factorize, our question says solve. We want to solve this. All right, so far we factorized it. So what we get back, we get back to our question and replace our quadratic expression here with the two factors that we have found. Again, apply the zero product rule. I must be sounding like a parrot now, right? Zero product rule, zero product rule, zero product rule. All right, so here is x plus 5 equals to 0, so x equals to minus 5. X minus 4 equals to 0 also, and so x equals to minus 4. And these two things here, this x equals to minus 5 and x equals to 4, these are our factors. All right, we have found our, these are our solutions. We have arrived at our solutions. These are our factors here. Okay, let's look at something again. We progressively get more, get more advanced in our questions. All right. So x squared is x times x. Minus 24 is, let's say, 6 times minus 4. All right. So 6 times minus 4 again. 6 times minus 4 equals to minus 24. So multiply it diagonally. X times minus 4 is minus 4x. X times 6 is 6x. All right. And when we add these two up, 6x plus minus 4x, when we add them up, we do get 2x. All right, we do get 2x. So that tells us that we have our factors. Our factors are x plus 6. That's one factor, and the other factor is x minus 4. These are our two factors. Okay, and so we write our factors down in this way. Okay, and same thing, right? Rewrite the question, replace this part here with your factors that you have found, and apply the zero product property. And x plus 6 equals to 0. Therefore, x equals to minus 6. And after that, you have x minus 4 equals to 0. And therefore, you have x equals to 4. These two are your solutions. Minus 6 and 4 are your solutions. X plus 6 and x minus 4 are your factors. Okay? All right. Let's look at this. X squared is x times x. And minus 21 is 7 times minus 3. Okay, and when you multiply it diagonally, all right, x times minus 3 is minus 3x, and x times 7 is 7x. All right, and when you add these two up, 7x plus minus 3x, when you add these two up, all right, you do get 4x. All right, you do get 4x. All right, 7x minus 3x is 4x. So that means that your factors are x plus 7 and x minus 3. These are your factors. You get your factors from this diagram here, right? X plus 7, x minus 3. So that's what you write it as. All right, so remember your question is this. The question says solve, all right? We don't want the factors, we want to solve it. So again, get back to your question, which is x squared plus 4x minus 21 equals to 0. Replace all this complicated stuff with your two factors here, and that's what I have done. I've taken this and replaced with my two factors, and then apply the zero product property. X plus 7 equals to 0, x equals to minus 7, x minus 3 equals to 0, x must be 3. So these minus 7 and 3, these are your two solutions. All right. Okay. Now we've gone through, minus at the what do you call that? Minus at the last number. Now we're going to go through another set of questions where the minus is in the middle number. See, your minus is here, the middle number. So we've gone through two sets of questions already. First set of questions, all the numbers are plus. So the one here is a plus, the one here is a plus, the one here is a plus as well. The second set of questions, we just ended the last one here. The last number, the final number here is a minus. Now we're going to begin a set of questions where the middle number is a minus. All right. The technique is exactly the same. I'm just trying to show you the variety of questions, the type of questions that you can find. All right, let me stress that the method of solution is exactly the same. I'm breaking it down so that you know the types of questions to expect. All right, so this one here, the middle number is a minus. Let's get started solving this thing. So x squared here is really x times x. Okay, and you have a plus 3, and you have a plus 3 here. 3 times 1 is 3. But 3 times 1 is not going to help you, because 3 and 1 here, you're going to get 3x, you're going to get x here. And when you total up, you're going to get 4x. What you need is a minus 4. So here, when you see a minus in the middle, like minus 4 in this case, when you see such a number in the middle, that means when you try and fill up this side here, you've got to fill it up with a bunch of minus numbers, a bunch of negative numbers. So for here, it has to be a minus 3 and minus 1. It has to be. It cannot be a 3 and 1. It cannot be a 3 and 1 because if you have a 3 and 1, you're going to end up with a positive here. All right, it's not going to match. All right, so to get 3, you have minus 3 times minus 1. All right, and when you multiply diagonally, you see x times minus 1 is minus x, and x times minus 3 is minus 3x. All right, and minus x plus minus 3x is minus 4x. And again, you've hit your you've hit jackpot. You've hit your factors already. The factors are x minus 3 and x minus 1. The factors stare at you here. That's the beauty of this technique. The factors are staring at you right here. What are the factors? X minus 3 and x minus 1. So here, write down your quadratic expression in terms of its factors. And again, remember, the question is not to factorize, the question is to solve. So you have your x squared minus 4x plus 3. Replace it with the factors that you have found, all right, and apply the zero product property. And the zero product property states that x minus 3 equals to 0 or x equals to 3. Alternatively, x minus 1 equals to 0 or x equals to 1. And remember, for this question, for these few questions that I'm covering right here, remember why you have to have a minus 3 and minus 1. The reason is very simple. If you have a 3 and if you have a 1 here, you're going to end up with 3x, you're going to end up with x, and when you total up, you're going to total up with 4x, which is not minus 4x. What you want is minus 4x, not 4x, right? And for that reason, you have this minus 3 and minus 1. All right, so if you think of that, and you remember that, it will make factorizing a lot easier. Now let's look at this one again. Okay, and again, the middle number is minus, which means that you got to have two numbers that are two negative numbers that when you multiply them, you get 12, all right, positive 12, two negative numbers. So here, again, start with an x squared is x times x, all right, that's very simple. And the 12 here, let's try minus 3 and minus 4. Minus 3 times minus 4 equals to positive 12, all right? And let's multiply it diagonally. So x times minus 4 is minus 4x, and x times minus 3 is minus 3x. But when you total it up, you will see that you just miss minus 8x. It's minus 7x, right? Which means that you've not arrived at your factors yet, which means that you have to try again. All right, try again. Okay, again with a different set of two negative numbers. So really, very simple. Let's get back to the drawing board. All right, we have to get back to the drawing board and when an empty slate. And again, you ask yourself, what's x squared? How do you get x squared? It's x times x. How do you get a positive 12? We tried minus 3 times minus 4. We will not try that again. So let's try minus 2 and minus 6. All right, so minus 6 times minus 2 is positive 12. And let's see, x times minus 2 is minus 2x, x times minus 6 is minus 6x. And when we total up these two, minus 2x plus minus 6x, hey, we get minus 8x, which means that your factors are right there, x minus 6 and x minus 2. These are your factors. Why? Because you matched these, right? You minus 2x plus minus 6x is indeed minus 8x, and therefore these are your factors. So write the factors down. X minus 6 is one factor. X minus 2 is another factor, all right? But remember, you are not here to factorize, you are here to solve. So get back to your question, which is this. This is your question. Replace the left side with your factors. Apply the zero product property. Zero product property, all right? So important. Apply it here. X minus 6 equals to 0. X equals to 6. X minus 2 equals to 0. Therefore, x equals to 2. And 6 and 2 are your solutions. X minus 6 and x minus 2 are your factors. Okay, okay, another one. Again, minus in the middle. So you have got to have two negative numbers to form your 28 here. So x squared is x times x. Your 28 here, you need two negative numbers. You absolutely need two negative numbers. Let's try minus 4 and minus 7. All right, minus 4 and minus 7, minus 4 times minus 7 is 28. It is indeed 28. Let's multiply them diagonally. So you have x times minus 7 is minus 7x. X times minus 4 is minus 4x. You multiply them diagonally, and after that, you add them up. And when you add them up, you see that, hey, you got minus 4x plus minus 7x is a minus 11x. All right, it's not minus 16x, which we hope to get, right? And that means x minus 4 and x minus 7 are not your factors. They are not your factors. Minus 4 and minus 7, yeah, when you multiply them, you get 28, but unfortunately, that's not what you're looking for. So back to the drawing board. X squared is x times x. Minus 28 here is minus 2 times minus 14. And when you multiply it out, you see that x times minus 14 is minus 14x, and x times minus 2 is minus 2x. And when you total these two up, minus 14x plus minus 2x, you do get minus 16x, which means x minus 2 and x minus 14 are your factors. All right, you have hit your factors, you have hit jackpot. All right, and again, rewrite your question. All right, and replace the left part with your factors. Replace this x squared minus 16x plus 28. Replace them with your factors. All right, and apply the zero product property, which is x minus 2 equals to 0. Therefore, x equals to 2. X minus 14 equals to 0, and therefore x equals to 14. Okay, okay, more questions. And this is another set of questions. We're beginning another set where our two numbers here are both minus. All right, so I'm showing you the different categories of questions. All right, so we started off with all positive, all the numbers were positive. Then after that, we had the third number here, which was negative. After that, we had the second number, which is negative. And now here we have two negative numbers. Let me stress again, the approach is exactly the same. All right, don't let these numbers, the negative numbers and all that scare you. The approach is exactly the same. I've categorized them so that it makes it convenient for you to see what are the different categories. So once you look at the question, you know what you're in for. So x squared is x times x. Minus 40 could be 2 times minus 20. Yes, minus 40. 2 times minus 20 is minus 40. All right, now let's multiply them out. X times minus 20 is minus 20x, and x times 2 is just 2x. And when you total this up, you get minus 18x, which is not what you want. You want minus 6x. You don't want minus 18x. All right, you have got to go back to the drawing board, revisit the drawing board, and revisit with a different combination of numbers here. You don't want 2 and minus 20. You want some other combination of numbers that will give you, when you multiply, it will give you minus 40. So back to the drawing board. X squared here is x times x. Minus 40 here is 5 times minus 8. All right, 5 times minus 8 is minus 40. All right, and here, when you multiply out x times minus 8 is minus 8x. All right, and x times 5 is 5x. And when you total them up again, oh gosh, okay, how long have we got to do this? How many times have we got to try? It's 5x plus minus 8x is minus 3x. All right, again, it doesn't match what we want. We have not come across the factors yet. All right, and this question looks more tricky than it seems. All right, we've tried once just now, and we've tried once and we got minus 18, which didn't match. We've tried another time and we've got like minus 3x, and it doesn't match again, and we are going for a third time. All right, back to the drawing board for the third time. X squared is x times x. Minus 40 is 4 times minus 10. And when we multiply it diagonally, x times minus 10 is minus 10x. All right, and x times 4 is 4x. And when we add this to our 4x plus minus 10x, we do get minus 6x. And hey, this time we've hit it. We got it. All right, so our factors here are x plus 4 and x minus 10. These are our factors here, x plus 4 and x minus 10. So these are our factors. All right, again, replace. All right, go back to the question, revisit the question. Always revisit the question, reread the question. Have you got what you wanted? We have not arrived at what we wanted. So put your question down and replace this part, the left part, with your factors here. Replace the left part with your factors. You already found the factors, replace them, and apply the zero product property. All right, this should be, you should be dreaming about the zero product property today. All right, you should be dreaming and having nightmares about the zero product property, and tomorrow you should be hallucinating zero product property. All right, and here it says that x minus 10 equals to 0, and so x equals to 10. Okay, this question, solve this. Again, let's look at x squared, so at x times x. Look at minus 32, and let's try 4 times minus 8. Okay, so here you have x times minus 8 is minus 8x. And here x times 4 is 4x. And when you add them up together, it's clear you don't get your minus 14x. It's very, very clear. You are far off from minus 14x, which means you have got to get back to the drawing board. X squared here is x times x. Minus 32 can be 1 times minus 32. I'm getting lazy here. Let's just say minus 32 is 1 times minus 32. And x times minus 32 is minus 32x. X times 1 is just x. And when I add them up, obviously it's not minus 14. I got to do better. All right, so the earlier combination of 4 times 8 didn't work. This combination of 1 times minus 32 didn't work as well. So let's get back to the drawing board for a third time. X squared is x times x. Minus 32 is 2 times minus 16. And when we multiply this out, you will see that x times minus 16 is x times minus 16 is minus 16x. X times 2 is 2x. All right, and when you add them up, you do get minus 14x. 2x plus minus 16x equals to minus 14x. You've hit your factors. Your factors are x plus 2 and x minus 16. So write your factors down. All right, and once you have written your factors down, what you do is just replace your left side. Again, this should be very standard to you. Very, very standard. All right, replace the left side with your factors and apply the zero product property. That's coming back to give you nightmares tonight. So x plus 2 equals to 0, x equals to minus 2, x plus minus 16 equals to 0, x equals to 16. So minus 2 and 16 are your solutions. All right. Okay. Now I'm giving you this, and it looks a bit scary. All right. It's like this. Solve this. And I'm showing you that, you know, scary. It's scary. You know, you have to ask yourself, why is this scary? You know, it's scary because of the 1/8. That's what's making it scary. And every time when you solve a mathematics question, every time you hit something scary, you got to remove that thing that's scary. So you have to identify what in the world is so scary about that question, and then you take steps to remove it. And in this one here, this question here, solve 1/8x squared minus x minus 16 equals 0. What's making this question really scary is 1/8. And there's a very easy way to remove that 1/8. And the way to remove it is simply to multiply it throughout, left and right, multiply by 8. And when you multiply by 8, what you do is just eliminate, you eliminate the 1/8, and here minus x becomes minus 8x, and here minus 16. When you multiply minus 16 by 8, you get minus 128. Okay, so this is what we will work with. All right, solving this is the same as solving this. This is what we will be working with. All right, this is scary. This is easy. So x again, x squared is x times x. Minus 128 is 2 times minus 64. Right, 2 times minus 64 is minus 128. And when you multiply that out, x times minus 64, you get minus 64x. X times 2 is 2x. When you add that up, you don't get your minus 8. You get a minus 62x, which is far from what you want, far from what you want. So let's do it again. X squared is x times x. Minus 128 is 8 times minus 16. And this time you'll see that it works out. X times minus 16 is minus 16x. X times 8 is 8x. And when you add up 8x plus minus 16x, here you get minus 8x. That means your factors are x plus 8 and x minus 16. Your factors are there. Right? And again, solve it in the usual way. Replace the left side with your factors and apply the zero product property, which means x equals to minus 8 and x equals to 16, which gives you this alternately. So your solutions are minus 8 and x 16. Okay. Another one with two minus signs, all right, two minus signs. So I'm hoping you are getting used to, you know, the different types of quadratic equations with plus signs and minus signs and so on and so forth. Very simple again, x times x. Okay, if I extend a bit over 1 hour, I hope you will bear with me because I've got 27 examples to show you. 27 examples. I don't know how many I've gone through, but there are 27 of them. So x squared equals to x times x. Minus 65 is 5 times minus 13. Okay, So here you multiply diagonally, x times minus 13 is minus 13x, x times 5 is 5x. And when you add this together, 5x plus minus 13x, you get your minus 8x. You do get it. So here your factors are x plus 5 and x minus 13. These are your two factors, okay? So here, let's write this quadratic expression in terms of its factors here. All right, revisit the question and apply, replace the left side with your factors and apply the zero product property. And you get as your solutions minus 5 and 13. Very easy. Now, this is a question I got from a book. All right, and it says solve this. Now, this is an interesting one because if you bring 12 over to this side, what's going to happen is you have minus x squared plus 8x and a minus 12. Now that's tough because your x squared here has a minus, you know, it's very tricky. So what I'm going to do is, this is a very special question. I'm going to shift everything to the right side. Instead of shifting everything to the left side, like I usually do, I'm going to shift everything to the right side. So what's happening is I'm going to retain 12. 12 remains on the right side, and minus x squared is brought to the right side and it becomes plus x squared, and plus 8x is brought to the right side and it becomes minus 8x. And if 0 equals to this whole thing here, then this whole thing here must be equal to 0 here, right? Okay, so it's the same, all right? Whether your 0 is on the left side or your 0 is on the right side, it's the same. I brought everything to the right side because I want to avoid this minus sign here. This minus sign is scary, man. It's really, really scary. So I brought it up everything to the right side so that it's convenient to solve. So again, I go through the way, and you're expert at this now. X squared is x times x. 12 is minus 1 times minus 12. All right, I got to have minus numbers here because this is a minus 8 here. And you'll see that it doesn't work. X times minus 12 is minus 12x. X times minus 1 is a minus x. And it gives me a total of minus 13x, not what I want, 8x. So back to the drawing board. X squared is x times x. 12 is minus 2 and minus 6. And hey, it does total up to minus 8x. All right, and the rest of the question is easy. All right, revisit the question. All right, write this quadratic expression in terms of its factors, revisit the question, replace your quadratic expression with the two factors and apply the zero product property. So x equals to 2, the solutions are x equals to 2 and x equals to 6. And there you have it. Now for the remaining questions, I think I've got 5 or 6 more questions. Now for the remaining questions, they are special because the x is not just an x squared. The first term is not an x squared, there's a number accompanying it. All right, so it gets more and more complicated. There's a number accompanying it. But again, as I'm going to show you, everything works out. You know, the method is the same. This is a method you can apply to all quadratic equations, no matter how it looks, All right, so here you have a 2x squared, which is 2x times x. All right, you have a 2 here because you have a 2x squared. Remember, it used to be just x and x, but it can't be now because there's a 2x squared. So it's 2x times x. Here you have a minus 21 and you have a minus 21. Let's try 3 and minus 7. 3 times minus 7 is minus 21. And let's see how this works out. All right, here you have 2x times minus 7, which is minus 14x, x times 3, which is a 3x. And when you total that up, it's not going to work out. It's a minus 11x. You want a minus x. So that's not going to work out. All right, you don't have your factors yet. So let's revisit. Let's get back to the drawing board. And this is okay. The problem is minus 21. And let's try minus 7 and 3. And now you will see that 2x times 3 is 6x. X times minus 7 is minus 7x. And when you add this minus 7x, when you add it with 6x, you do get your minus x. And therefore, your factors are 2x minus 7. 2x minus 7 is from here, and x plus 3 is from here. All right, revisit your question. Your question is 2x squared minus x minus 21 equals to 0. Replace the left side with your factors and apply the zero product property. A little bit more complicated because you have a 2x here. So 2x equals to 7, x equals to 7 over 2. On the right, you have x equals to 3 equals to 0, x plus 3 equals to 0, and therefore your x equals to minus 3. So your solutions are 7 over 2 or 3.5. This is 3.5, and this is minus 3. These are your solutions. So let's go on with questions that have a number in front here, and this is a 3x times 3. Obvious, it's a 3x times 3. The minus 11 here is a minus 11 and 1. Minus 11 times 1 is minus 11. Let's multiply this out. So you have a 3x times 1 is 3x, and x times minus 11 is a minus 11x. And when you total them up, yes, you get your minus 8. Minus 11x plus 3x is minus 8x, okay? And so your factors are simply 3x minus 11 and x plus 1. These are your factors. From here, 3x minus 11 and x plus 1, all right? Rewrite your question, replace your left side, and then you have your solutions, 11 over 3 and x equals to minus 1. 11 over 3 and minus 1 are your solutions. Okay, let's get on to a few more, all right, before we end the session today. Practice makes perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. So 3x squared is 3x times x. 8 is minus 1 times minus 8. All right, I have to have two minus numbers because there's a minus here. So minus 1 times minus 8. So 3x times minus 8 is minus 24. X times minus 1 is minus x. All right, and when I add this up, minus x plus minus 24x, I get my minus 25x. And therefore, my factors are 3x minus 1 and x minus 8. Rewrite your left side and then apply the zero product property, and you get your solution as 1 over 3 and 8. Simple, right? Very, very simple. I hope you're getting the hang of this, all right? Because it's so super, super duper simple. Okay, something involving 5x. So 5x is 5x times x. 2 is 1 times 2. Easy, 1 times 2. 2 is 1 times 2. And let's multiply this out diagonally. 5x times 2 is 10x, and x times 1 is simply x. And when we add up these two, you get an 11x here, which means your factors are 5x plus 1 and x plus 2. That's there. All right, so write out your question again and write out the left side in terms of your factors, okay, and apply the zero product property or zero product rule, and you get one solution is minus 1 over 5 and the other solution has to be minus 2. Very easy. Another one, all right, another one. So 5x squared is 5x times x, minus 11 is minus 11 times 1. Okay, minus 11 times 1. So let's multiply diagonally. So 5x times 1 is 5x. X times minus 11 is minus 11x. So when you add these two up, minus 11x plus 5x, you do get minus 6x here. All right, you've hit it. So your factors are 5x minus 11 and x plus 1. These are your factors. Just write them out, revisit the question, replace whatever you have in the question with the factors that you have found, all right, and apply the zero product property. So here you would have one solution as 11 over 5 and the second solution as minus 1. Very, very simple. Okay, we are reaching the end. You have a 5x minus 36x plus 7. Very simple. So 5x squared is 5x times x. 7 is simply minus 1 times minus 7. Again, I have two minus numbers because I have a minus here. All right, so 5x times minus 7 is minus 35x. X times minus 1 is minus x. And so when you add them up, you get minus 36x, which means your factors, you got your factors. Your factors are 5x minus 1 and x minus 7. Rewrite them. All right, rewrite your question, replace the left side with your factors and apply the zero product rule, zero product property, and you have x equals to 1 over 5 and x equals to 7. Simple, very, very simple. Okay, you get the hang of it, you will master it in no time at all. All right, 20x, huge, from 3x squared, 5x squared, now you have 20x squared. And 20x squared is 5x times 4x. Right? 5x times 4x equals to, it gives you 20x squared. Minus 4 is 4 times minus 1. And let's work things out diagonally. 5 times minus 1 is minus 5x. And 4x times 4 is 16x. Oops, there's a 16x. Can you change this, please? There's an error here. All right, this is a 16x. Sorry, my bad. All right, this is a 16x. Okay, so here I'm saving it. Okay, so you have a 16x here. All right, and you see that minus 5x plus 16x gives you the 11x. All right, it does give you your 11x. Okay, and that means you have arrived at your factors of 5x plus 4 and 4x minus 1. All right, rewrite everything. All right, replace the left side and use your zero product property, and you get x equals to minus 4 over 5 and x equals to 1/4. These are your two solutions. Now, last of all, and then this is the last part. Okay, now I've given you so many questions. I think I've given you 11 or 12 worksheets. I've given you 11 or 12 worksheets because factorizing is something that you're going to do very often. Even at the university level, you have to factorize. All right, and you've got, you want to, like last week I showed you Google, how to plot graphs using Google, right? Now this week I'm going to show you this thing called a quadratic equation solver by Wolfram. All right, and you don't have to memorize this. Okay, I'll show you how to get this because the URL is so complicated, it's so long. What you got to do is just Wolfram quadratic equation solver. You just have to do that, and the first one here, the first link here is what you want. Okay, and you can check all your questions. Like for example, let's go back to my last question here. 20x squared plus 11 plus minus 4 equals to 0, and my solutions were x equals to minus 4 over 5 and x equals to 1 over 4. So let's use this website that I'm showing you to locate this 20, 11, and minus 4. So what I got to do is just put a 20 here and put an 11 here and put a minus 4 here. All right, and that is equal to 0, and you just click on submit and it starts computing, and you wait and wait a bit. Don't tell your teachers I taught you this, okay? And what you get is x equals to minus 4 over 5 and x equals to 1 over 4. Exactly what I got. X equals to minus 4 over 5 is what I got here. X equals to 1 over 4 is what I got here. Exactly what I got. All right. Now, one thing I've got to tell you again, don't use this to solve, all right, all your school questions. Use this just to check, because you don't have this in your exam hall. When you're in the exam, you don't have Wolfram quadratic equation solver, unfortunately. So use it only to check. So let's just revise this bit. Just go, don't memorize this. How do you get this, right? So just search for Wolfram quadratic equation solver, Wolfram quadratic equation solver, and you will get to this. Replace your numbers. I have replaced it with 20. You can see the 20 here. You can see the 11 here. You can see the minus 4 here, and click on submit and wait for like 20 seconds and you get your solutions. All right. Note that it doesn't give you your factors. It just gives you your solutions directly. And as a bonus, it gives you your plot. This is minus 4 or 5, it's here, and 1/4 is right there. So, so today we have covered, if I'm not wrong, 26 or 27 examples on factorization. All right. And I hope I've given you also, I hope the people have sent you the 11 worksheets. I encourage you to complete all the worksheets, complete all of them. And I'll see you, I hope to see you again next week for completing the square. So thank you for watching and see you next week. And if you're interested in more videos that I've created, then go on to my YouTube channel, or you can contact me directly at this email address. Thank you and bye-bye. See you next week.
Thank you, Dr. Lee. Thank you very much.